The Monterey Peninsula is one of America's most beautiful residential communities and vacation playgrounds. But it's also a working community. To the west lie the bountiful fishing preserves of the blue Pacific Ocean, while to the east are the farmlands and vineyards that produce grapes for some of California's 700 world-renowned wineries. But it's also the home of great international motorsports. In the hills overlooking the Pacific Ocean lies Laguna Seca Raceway, a 1.9-mile road course recognized as one of the most challenging in the world. Throughout the year, Laguna Seca is visited by the Indy cars and road racing motorcycles. But today, ESPN brings you the high-tech sports cars of IMSA Camel GT Racing. The drivers are gathered. Thus far in 5 races on the Camel GT season, 5 different drivers have won. Today at Laguna Seca, these drivers will hit speeds in excess of 160 miles an hour, and the demands are great. But one of these drivers will be the winner of the 23rd Monterey Grand Prix. Monterey, California, high above the blue Pacific Ocean and the renovated factories of John Steinbeck's Cannery Row. Welcome to International Motorsports Association Camel GT Racing on ESPN. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, welcoming you to the 3rd round of IMSA Camel GT Racing on ESPN for 1986. Today, it's the IMSA Strohs 300, a 300-kilometer dash for Camel GT and Camel Light's prototype cars. With me, as usual, Bill Adam, Camel GT racer. And Bill, from last weekend to this at Riverside, California, the contrasts are stark. There it was hot and dusty. Here we have cool breezes and a little bit of threat of rain. So it's going to be a challenge to these teams.
Well, it's going to be a very pleasant race, actually, for the teams because this temperature is just ideal to drive in. We've got a tremendous contrast, as you say, from Riverside being a very high-speed track, one that's very long, down to a Laguna Seca track that's less than 2 miles, and yet is deceivingly fast. It's very, very quick, other than one single right-hand corner. A very fast track really puts a premium on handling.
And because of that, we have a surprise pole sitter in this race.
It's excellent. We have the Ford Probe on the pole, and again, it's being done with a car that's only a 2.1-liter motor, giving away literally over 200 horsepower to some of the faster cars. And yet this handling and Klaus Ludwig's brilliance has come through to put the car on the pole.
Now, we have seen a surprise. Just as the cars were doing their warm-up this morning, the Nissan prototype car, during a practice pit stop, suffered a pit fire. We're not sure of the status of that car. Let's go down to pit reporter Ron Kendrick to find out how the Nissan crew is doing. Ron?
For the 2nd race in a row, the Nissan GTP has qualified well. It will start at Laguna Seca on the inside of row 2. That despite a problem early this morning in a warm-up session. The crew was practicing pit stops when the valve on the fueling system stuck open. Fuel spilled onto the engine. It caught fire. Crewman Shaler Duncan, who was changing the left rear tire, was burned. He's been taken to the Santa Clara Burn Center for treatment of 2nd-degree burns. With me now is the driver of the Nissan, Elliott Forbes Robinson. Elliott, I said that it almost surprised people that the car qualified that well here. Did it surprise you?
Well, it did. We didn't expect that kind of speed at this track. This track has a premium on handling and downforce, which we're a little bit light on. We know the Nissan motor is strong enough to run with anybody here, but the chassis seemed to work better than we thought. The guys have done a terrific job in getting it at Electromotive, and we just hope that the Nissan motor will run all day today so that we can have an excellent finish.
What damage did the fire cause?
Well, it mainly was body work, and we've replaced all that, and hopefully Shayna will be in good shape, and we'll be set to go for the next race.
All right, good luck. Elliott Forbes Robinson starting on the inside of row 2. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Ron. Good to see that problem with the 83 Nissan car wasn't anywhere near as bad as it looked. We'll be back at Laguna Seca Raceway to bring you the starting lineup and take the green flag in today's IMSA Camel GT Enduro right after these messages. Raceway, where the field is rolling off to warm their tires, and as they do, let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's 98-lap Camel GT battle. On the pole in record time, the Ford Probe of 3-time Le Mans winner Klaus Ludwig from West Germany. Outside Ludwig will be series points leader Al Holbert in a Porsche 962. During the inside of row 2, Elliott Forbes Robinson in the Nissan GTP machine. Outside of EFR will be John Paul Jr. in a Buick-powered Hawk Racer. Moving to row 3, on the inside will be Bryce Cobb, who joined Rob Dyson to win at Riverside in round 5 of the series, driving a Porsche 962. Outside will be the Jaguar XJR7 of Hurley Haywood. He'll be joined by Chip Robinson, one of the few teams planning to make a driver change during today's sprint race. Inside row 4 will be Pete Halsmer in the second Ford Probe. Outside of Halsmer, Bob Lobenberg in the second Buick-powered Hawk. On row 5 will be Darren Brassfield driving a Porsche. Brassfield only 6 points behind Holbert in the points. Plans to drive solo today as well. And outside row 5 will be Bruce Levin, also in a Porsche 962. As the cars come down out of the corkscrew and complete their pace lap, we should tell you that sitting on the pole in the second class of prototype racers today will be Bob Earl in a Pontiac Fiero-powered Spice prototype. Only the third race for that car, and we'll be watching that as the day goes on. Camel Light's always a great battle, Bill Adam.
Well, an excellent job by Bob Earl, but look at this psychology developing right here in the front row. That Klaus Ludwig's actually deliberately holding back a little bit to keep Al from getting on the gas too early, and he wants to hit the gas at the right time.
We're waiting for the green flag, and there it is. We're underway at Laguna Seca. Great shot there from Jeff Zachary, our handheld cameraman at the start-finish line, and probably no small personal danger to himself, but Klaus Ludwig opens up a big lead over Al Holbert early.
Well, this is spectacular. Klaus did exactly what he wanted by getting on the gas at the proper time and using the full boost available from that little turbocharged 4-cylinder motor, and he has pulled out a really nice gap even on this opening lap.
This Ford Probe debuted here at Laguna Seca 1 year ago. Thus far, there have been no victories for the Ford team, but this could be a racetrack that treats them well.
Well, the track does favor the Ford because it does have such outstanding handling. And you can see even on the opening lap there, coming into that corkscrew turn, the Probe got a little bit sideways, showing that Klaus is working very, very hard to try and pull out a strong lead right after the green flag fell.
Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Probe. There's Al Holbert in second in a Porsche. Elliott Forbes Robinson of the Nissan, followed by Bryce Cobb in another Porsche. 1 through 4 as we complete lap 1. Klaus Ludwig with a big lead.
Yeah, what a show of talent by Klaus. He is such a brilliant driver, and he's using this car, using everything that the car can give him, and trying to offset that 100 horsepower, sometimes 200 horsepower advantage that some of the following cars have. And he's doing it. He's pulling out a tremendous lead at this point.
Klaus Ludwig approaches the 3-story corkscrew drop, and there's a spun car in front of him at this point. That is Frank Labino pulls forward in that lights car and tags Klaus Ludwig.
And thankfully, it appeared to be a very, very light impact, but you could actually see the front end of Frank's car get loosened by that impact.
You see the front end came off Frank Rubino's car, and we have word that Al Holbert, running in second at the time, hit that nose piece that came off when Frank Rubino's car struck Klaus Ludwig.
I hope the damage is going to be light on both cars. By looking at the front of that car, it appears that the whole structure underneath the bodywork is undamaged, so I think both cars will be all right.
And there's Al Holbert on pit road.
It looks like it's a little more severe. Al has obviously hit that car in a pretty fair whack. It's shredded that left front corner on his car.
Bad luck right off the bat for series point leader Al Holbert and his Porsche team. Meanwhile, Klaus Ludwig is benefiting from all of this. He is absolutely motoring away from this field. On goes the new nose piece, and Al can probably minimize his damage here if he can get out in a hurry.
Yeah, I'm sure the crew can get this new nose on quickly. Although it appears they might be having, one of them even picked up a hammer there. Something isn't just quite fitting properly, and possibly the structure below the nose, which is just, the viewers can see just the aluminum work there and a little bit of bracing. That's what holds the fiberglass in place. Maybe that's bent.
There's the number 13 car of Frank Rubino, winners of the 24 Hours of Daytona this year, co-driving with Ray Mummery. 13, not a lucky number for this Camel Lights team today.
Now you see the difference. That nose piece went out without any problem at all, so obviously it was only a fiberglass impact.
Okay, let's take another look at that accident. Klaus Ludwig taking a big gamble here, trying to get around the moving car of Frank Rubino.
Frank made a bit of a mistake right there by trying to move the car. He should have been obviously very, very aware of Klaus coming up.
Let's go down to Ron Kendrick in Al Holbert's pits.
The damage to Holbert's car was a little more than superficial. You can see the fiberglass damage here off the nose piece, but right now behind me, the crew is continuing to work on the inside, behind where this nose piece goes. They continue to work on the frame of the car. Crew working feverishly trying to get Al Holbert back into this event here at Laguna Seca. The work appears to be just about completed. They start to pick up the other nose piece to put it back on. Now some more work goes on. Car goes down off the air jacks. And Holbert is going to go out without the other nose piece.
And the reason for that is coming down the hill behind him. Al Holbert already one lap down. Bill Adam doesn't want to fall another.
No, his crew chief has to stay aware of where the pack is, and as long as he can get back onto the track, he can now hurry around the track and actually catch up to the back. And instead of losing a lap, he's only a few seconds back.
And the field is still under caution here at Laguna Seca Raceway. On ESPN, we'll have more of the IMSA Monterey Triple Crown Grand Prix right after these messages. Laguna Seca, where Al Holbert is trying to stay in the race after suffering severe front-end damage on his Porsche. Let's go to Ron.
Holbert comes back in with the Porsche 962, the crew with the silver duct tape, beginning to do some work on the front end of the car. The car went out for a lap so as not to lose time on the track. Went around a lap without the nose piece on. Crew feverishly trying to tape everything back together on the Porsche 962 of Al Holbert. The new nose piece is going on now. Holbert revs the engines. He's anxious to get back out in front of this field as they come around. Field now coming down, getting ready to make the hairpin turn onto the front straightaway. The car is away in 45 seconds, and he will beat the crowd out. He will beat the rest of the field out onto the track.
And so Al Holbert manages to stay less than 2 laps down to the field. Recapping briefly, Holbert suffered front-end damage on that Porsche when he struck debris left after leader Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Probe was hit by a lap car. There is Ludwig with a huge advantage now and trying to put a second lap on Al Holbert if he can run him down.
Well, how invaluable that silver duct tape or 200-mile-an-hour tape, racer tape, whatever you want to call it is. It's just really it's a very important part of every pit crew.
There's a good look at second place now. That is Hurley Haywood of Ponte Vedra, Florida, driving the 44 Jaguar XJR7. He's being trailed by Bryce Cobb out of Dallas, Texas, driving the Dyson Racing Porsche 962.
These are two of the better cars in the race from a chassis standpoint. You can see Price actually close up a little bit on the Jag under braking, which is something of a surprise to me at this point. I would have thought the Jag would have really been at a premium on this circuit, where the good torque capabilities of the beautiful V12 Jaguar motor really come into play. And the braking, of course, has always been one of the high points of this car, but Price is actually closing up there.
Today is a happy day for Hurley Haywood. It is his 38th birthday on top of everything else, and you can bet that after not having a win since the Road Atlanta event of last year, that Jaguar team would like to get one here at Laguna Seca. There is the number 46 Buick Hawk. We have word now that that car has been started by Whitney Gantz out of Laguna Niguel, California, rather than Bob Lovenberg, as we told you at the top of the show. Whitney Gantz now driving the number 46 Buick there, being pressed hard by Darren Brassfield, driving the number 67 BFG Porsche.
Yeah, you saw Darren really close up as well under brake. In fact, he's getting closer through all of these high-speed corners. Excellent in-car shot right here. This is going up the hill as we approach the corkscrew, and Darren he may even try a pass up here. He's getting awfully close. He is gonna, oh, beautiful pass, Darren. Beautiful work. Down through the corkscrew, out of second gear, just a brief flash up into third. Gently on the brakes here as we're bending into a fairly quick left-hand corner.
Brassfield trailing Al Holbert by just 6 points, as we pointed out at the top of the show. He is going to drive that car all day if he possibly can to try to close that gap. Now there is Bryce Cobb being pressed hard by Elliott Forbes Robinson in the Nissan, running third and fourth, as you see. The Nissan, Bill, I note, a big plume of exhaust smoke. They're obviously running that car very, very rich.
Well, all week long, this has just been an absolutely incredible car to watch. Just the horsepower this thing is generating, it almost has to be seen to be believed. The electrics in the car, which governs the fuel injection and the turbo system, was actually developed by Don Devendorf, one of the old drivers of the car. And he is an aerospace engineer that's done a remarkable job. So although the car looks like it's running far too rich, I'm sure that Don has got this car to the point where he wants it to live comfortably for years and years.
As Elliott Forbes Robinson pointed out, they're a little concerned about the handling qualities of the car. You see a lot of bouncing as they come through the rougher part of this Laguna Seca track, following the Porsche, which by contrast is very smooth.
Yeah, a very noticeable difference. The Porsche does look more like a street car, and I think the roughness gives you a perfect idea of the beating you take.
There is Klaus Ludwig, 3-time winner at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, a Porsche driver in his European career. There's the number 44 Jaguar XJR7 of Hurley Haywood, running second. The Jaguar team involved in a devastating crash at Riverside, California just a week or so ago. Totally demolished one of those two cars, and perhaps the most interesting thing about that was that Chip Robinson, driving the Jaguar at the time of that crash, is Hurley Haywood's co-driver today. The car protected him. They lost the car, but they have Robinson, and of course that's what's most important.
Very, very important. It's really a tribute to the strength of these cars. Look at this battle that we've got here. This is spectacular racing right now. We've got Bryce Cobb and the Dyson Porsche, the winner of Riverside, followed very closely by that ultra-high horsepower Nissan. There's John Paul sitting back there, and I think Pete Halsmer is actually closing up in the second probe. We've got a fantastic four-car battle. Look at this, all together. Oh!
That's Pete Halsmer in the Ford Probe, nearly running up the tailpipe of John Paul Jr. in the Buick, having trouble getting around the number 9 car. That's the Camel Lights machine of Deborah Gregg and Jeff Klein.
Awfully close. Pete could very easily have damaged the front end of his car at this point. Fortunately, he was at a good place in the track where even though he had to get off the gas and onto the brakes a lot harder than he wanted to, the loss of the boost doesn't hurt him too much because we're in a downhill section where you really can't use too much horsepower. Now everything's equal. It looks like Johnny's going to take a run at the... I don't. No, you can't look at that horsepower. Incredible power by the Nissan, able to pull ahead, even when John Paul had a bit of a run at him from the hairpin.
To give you an idea of what we're talking about, the Buick team, the Conti Racing team, says that Buick can turn some 900 horsepower with full turbocharging. Lots of racing to come here at Laguna Seca. Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Probe is your leader. Back. Ron Kendrick is on pit road for round 3 of our ESPN coverage of IMSA Camel GT Racing in 1986. And there is your leader in the Monterey Triple Crown Grand Prix, Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Probe.
Well, Klaus hasn't even put a wheel wrong at this point, other than that very slight scrape on the side of his car. Like, this thing is absolutely perfect, and it appears to be perfectly suited for the track. It's very, very nimble, and it uses the horsepower that it does have available, which, as I've mentioned, is maybe 700 at maximum. So he's giving away an incredible amount of horsepower, but leading the race very handily.
Now coming into view, Hurley Haywood in the Jaguar, putting up a surprisingly good effort here. Now, the Jaguar has been hampered a little bit by the fact that it's a normally aspirated 12-cylinder car. It doesn't have the turbocharged power of virtually all of its competitors in the GTP class. But the Jaguar is showing very, very well today.
Well, on a track like this, the engine's characteristics, that's a very wide torque band, and it's a very smooth motor to drive with, really offsets that additional horsepower that a turbocharger can give you. Hurley can apply the power when he wants to. You don't have to anticipate a point in the track when you want full power that a turbocharged driver would have to do. When you come into this hairpin corner with a turbo car, you have to get on the gas actually before you want full power, but it takes a second or two for that motor to catch up.
And following into that turn, 3rd place and 4th place, this is Bryce Cobb dicing with Elliott Forbes Robinson in the Nissan, and you see the streams of rubber that Elliott Forbes Robinson is leaving.
Look at this. Just unbelievable horsepower that car is putting out.
Elliott Forbes Robinson out of Denver, North Carolina, just blows by Texan Bryce Cobb in a Porsche 962.
The more I watch this car, the more impressed I am by the horsepower, because these cars generally, when you're accelerating from 0 up to 130, the rate of acceleration is very, very similar, and for that car to do what it did is just almost unthinkable. Really an impressive display for that motor.
And Elliott Forbes Robinson continues to just pull away from Bryce Cobb, being followed at this point by the Buick. I believe that's the 45 car of John Paul Jr. down through the corkscrew. Perhaps the most recognizable turn in motorsports, a 3-story drop through these sharp left, right, left turns.
Look at that black smoke still pouring out. But again, like, this isn't a sign of anything wrong with that engine. I'm sure this is by design, and they're doing it, running the engine deliberately rich to make sure that it's going to live, that it'll be cool enough to withstand the rigors of this pace. And obviously, the horsepower isn't suffering. Usually, you try and run a motor a little bit in the lean side to get as much possible horsepower. It's obviously not necessary for Nissan. They have an abundance.
Bryce Cobb running with lights on so that traffic can see him easily in its mirrors as he picks them up. But right now, his problem is in his own mirrors. John Paul Jr. in a Buick all over Bryce Cobb as they pass one of the Camel Lights cars.
Yeah, John has really closed up here in Price, and I'm sure he's going to try and take a run at him as soon as he possibly can. He's driving somewhat conservatively at this point. I think they have set the Buick engine with a lower boost to try and get this car to live for the duration of the race. Normally, the Buick would close up on the Porsche and acceleration coming out of the hairpin. You can see John is making up his ground entering the corner. That is under braking, and the application of power as he comes out. He's closing right up on Price at this point.
This is a sprint race. Now, the IMSA Camel GT Stars run distances from 3 to 6 hours, even 12 and 24-hour races. This one, a mere 98 laps of this 1.9-mile Laguna Seca course, will take less than 2 hours, and it's very much a sprint. Fuel is not a problem in a race like this.
No, they can run a higher boost than they normally would, and John again is posed right up on the back of Price's car. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him take a run out of this lap. He's definitely in possession. He's only got one slower car in the way, and they should be able to get by going through the S's here.
Traffic becoming a factor as the field begins its lapping. Now that's a Camel Lights car. Bryce Cobb swinging back and forth across the track, trying to get around the slower traffic.
This tends to be a bit of a problem. Turns 1, 2, and 3 at the Laguna track are extremely high speed. They're all fifth-gear corners, and you're dropping into fourth gear going up the hill here, so it's a very fast section. Look how fast these fellows are going. They're actually coming up to lap the GTP Light leading car. Bob Earl is the number 24, right in the front of the picture there, is the leader of GTP Light, and yet these cars have caught, and Klaus Ludwig, our leader, has actually passed him. He's a lap down already.
Now we're back up on the point. Klaus Ludwig really having things his way. Now that's Al Holbert in front of him. Holbert, who started on the outside front row, is trying desperately to keep from being lapped by Ludwig, at which point he would go 2 laps down to the field. Ludwig at this point passing Bruce Levin's number 86 car, putting him another lap down. Al Holbert, who you see there in the front of your picture in the number 14 Porsche, does not want to get caught by Klaus Ludwig one more time.
Well, Klaus would love to put Al an extra lap down. It would just give him that much of a cushion. Holbert is so feared by competitors that even though he does have a 1-lap lead at this point, like Klaus has a 1-lap lead, he's not comfortable. He wants to put Al 2 down because you can't count the Holbert Racing team out. They are so good. They have come back from this situation so many times and come back to win races that you have to try and take every advantage you get. And to lap him one more time would be a tremendous advantage for Klaus.
Back once more under the start-finish bridge through turn 1 and into turn 2. Al Holbert being chased by Klaus Ludwig. And Holbert is one of the faster Porsche cars on the circuit. Al won 9 races in 1985. He already has 1 victory, that in the Daytona 24 Hours this year. And yet,
here's Johnny trying a pass now in Price. Look, yes, this time he made it cleanly. He must have got on the gas just that little bit earlier coming out of the hairpin, and was just enough to offset that Porsche advantage.
John Paul Jr. in the Buick taking over 4th place from Bryce Cobb and a Porsche. And we'll be back for more racing from Laguna Seca Raceway. Klaus Ludwig in the Probe leads, followed by the Jaguar and the Nissan. We'll be right back. Laguna Seca, California, and the Nissan Monterey Triple Crown Grand Prix for Camel GT prototype cars. There is your leader, Klaus Ludwig, in the slightly damaged Ford Probe number 7, being tracked by the number 44 Jaguar. At the top of your picture there, that's Hurley Haywood in the Jaguar XJR7. And here's the sister car. Excuse me, Bill, go ahead.
I was going to say, it appears the damage that was caused to that car at the start of the race really hasn't created any major problems for Klaus. Here's a great in-car shot going up towards the corkscrew. Beautiful camera work here. And there's the sister car, the 07 car, just snuck through there as we were watching. That's Pete Halsmer in that car. In fact, Pete last year drove for the car that you just saw the pictures taken from. He was a B.F. Goodrich team driver with the Jim Busby team. Moving on to Ford this year, and I'm sure he just gave an extra little smile when he passed that car.
Interesting story behind this car. The original number 2 car for the Pro team was destroyed in a devastating accident at Riverside, California just a week ago. They thought they would come to this race with just 1 car as we watch Bob Earl, the Camel Lights leader, and the Pontiac Fiero. But they were able to get the number 2 car into condition for this race, and Pete Halsmer is doing very well. Speaking of doing very well, this man, Bob Earl, leading Camel Lights, only the 3rd race for this prototype car. There goes Al Holbert. Gives you a good idea of how much faster the full-scale, if you will, prototype cars are than the Camel Lights cars. But the Camel Lights guys do get a pretty good competition going among themselves.
They've got an excellent series this year, and it's just getting better and better with the inclusion of cars such as this. These cars actually will corner every bit as quickly as a full GT prototype car, and really the only difference is when you're exiting a corner. When the GTP cars come up to lap these cars, they lose no time at all following them through the corners, and in some cases the GTP light cars will actually corner a little bit faster.
We saw that going through the corkscrews there. Bob Earl, who also campaigns a GTU car, able to keep pace with this man, Al Holbert, out of Warrington, Pennsylvania. Last year's Camel GT Series champion with 9 victories, tying a record. But this just not in the cards for Al Holbert, who is 2 laps down at this point to this man, Klaus Ludwig. going through the slowest turn on the course, turn 9, sliding a little bit through the turn, and making his way to the start-finish line.
Well, Klaus is certainly putting on a performance to be remembered today. He is driving beautifully, and again, using this much smaller engine car than anyone else in the race has. Using it to its maximum potential and taking advantage of that outstanding handling, the brilliant braking. Look at him close up here in the smaller GTP light car going through the S's. Very fast section of track down through here, 150, 160 miles an hour. Even this area here, you're still doing 130 if you're in this uphill section.
Once again, Bob Earl, who does double duty on the Camel GT circuit. He also drives a GTU Pontiac Fiero that looks much like the ones you see on the street.
It's such a good-looking car. That really is a very pretty car.
A similar car running the European sports car circuit. Another good look from inside our BFG Porsche. This is a Busby Racing Porsche. Jim Busby, who puts together the BF Goodrich team. We took a closer look at the man behind the BF Goodrich Busby Racing operation. Let's take a look at that now. Down the coast from Monterey and Laguna Beach, California, are the shops of Jim Busby Industries, home of Busby Racing. Those shops are busy these days as the 43-year-old Busby and his team prepare for their most ambitious effort yet. In addition to a total rebuilding of the team's BF Goodrich-sponsored Porsche 962 for the IMSA Camel GT circuit, Busby's crew is preparing a totally new car for next month's 24 Hours of Le Mans. A husband and father, racing has been Jim Busby's career since his first visit to a racetrack as a boy. The trip has taken him to some of the world's most prestigious road racing circuits. Along the way, Busby has raced virtually every kind of sports car. Still, after more than 10 years on the Camel GT circuit, this dyed-in-the-wool road racer remembers the drag strips of his boyhood.
My career in motor racing started basically because I was fascinated by cars. My dad took me out to the Times Grand Prix in 1958, and I sat in turn 6, and I watched Chuck Day and a Scarab win the race. And I thought that that was pretty much out of my reach financially, and I didn't really have anybody to help me in that direction. Whereas in drag racing, I sort of had a way to go. It was easy to get into, and you could sort of progress. So drag racing was where I got started actually racing.
From drag racing, Busby moved to sports cars, where he competed in the prestigious 24-hour race at Le Mans, France. And Le Mans is where Busby's heart lies.
Probably the 24 Hours of Le Mans is to me, the ultimate race. I know a lot of people in America would say that the Indy 500 is, but to me, personally, I think the 24 Hours of Le Mans is the ultimate race. I think it's the toughest, most grueling race that there is. And the fact that I've been able to go there 3 times and win my class twice and have my team win it the 3rd time probably is the highest point of my career.
We're back inside the Busby Racing Porsche with driver Darren Brassfield at the wheel. And we'll be back with more IMSA Camel GT from Laguna Seca on ESPN right after these messages. Here at Laguna Seca, we took a look at the Busby Racing operation. That's Jim Busby, who just got into that car on the pit stop, replacing Darren Brassfield, but he's getting right back out, and they obviously have a serious problem, Bill.
With the engine cover being off, it's something more than just a regular stop, obviously, and they're looking at it fairly leisurely, so I don't expect to see them get back out.
Now one more car out. Here is Curly Haywood running second at this point. The Jaguar putting on an excellent show today.
This car is running well.
Klaus Ludwig, your leader. He has led since the start of this race, putting another lap on the Camel Lights leader, the Pontiac Fiero.
The viewers might note the front of the Jaguar looks a little... Oh, no!
John Paul Jr. in the Buick has spun. That's turn 9 leading out of the final straightaway. There are cars coming down the hill. This could be close.
Oh, geez, Johnny, be careful. Oh, and it looks...
Ooh.
Oh,
almost a replay of our last two accidents. John Paul Jr., here comes the Ford Probe number 07. That'll put Paul down into 4th place by our records.
Yeah.
Bad break for John Paul Jr. in the Buick.
That sometimes is a problem with this turbocharger lag that I've referred to, because you have to anticipate. Now here we've got the Jag coming into the pits as well, but because you anticipate where you want the horsepower, you have to actually put your foot on the floor before you really want full throttle. And I think maybe what happened with John is that he just got full throttle a fraction before he really wanted it.
Chip Robinson assisting Hurley Haywood out of the car. Robinson will get in. And here is your leader, Klaus Ludwig, up at the corkscrew, making his way around the track. This could be an opportunity for him to put, whoa, and there's a service vehicle on the course. We'll have to check into that. Klaus Ludwig just getting by a service vehicle, making his way around. I'm surprised we didn't see any yellow flag there, Bill.
Not a thing. That's really quite unusual. Klaus may have been shown a white flag as he came up the hill just to indicate a slow-moving or a service vehicle being on the track.
Okay.
And I think he's coming in the pits as well.
Our leader is on pit road. Let's go down to Ron Kendrick on pit road and find out the story. Ron?
Car 7 comes to a stop with Klaus Ludwig, the driver. There will not be a driver change. Cleaning some debris off the front grill work of the Ford Probe. A tire change. They're fueling the car. Co-driver Tom Loy is standing by, but Klaus Ludwig is not going to get out of the car. Windshield is being cleaned. The debris here at Laguna Seca. About ready. The refueling is done. The car is down off the jet and away. Engine runs 45 seconds.
And Klaus Ludwig is back on the course. He will maintain his first position by our records as Chip Robinson, now in the Jaguar, has dropped into third place. And the Ford Probes, believe it or not, are running first and second after practically, well, virtually losing one car a week ago at Riverside. There you see them. Klaus Ludwig in first place, followed by Pete Halsmer in the other Ford Probe, and Halsmer trying to put a move on his teammate.
Well, that was really a novel way of cleaning the windshield. Normally you see somebody hop over the wall with a bottle of Windex and a rag and scrub away at the window. There, someone just stood back and just shot some cleaning fluid onto the windshield, and Klaus simply turned on the wiper.
Very close moment there as they passed one of the Camel Lights cars. What a day for Ford this could be, having their probes run 1-2 on the anniversary of the debut of this car.
Well, what an incredible season we've got going here, too. As you said, there's been 5 races so far and 5 different winners, and this certainly gives all indications of showing us 6 different winners in this Camel GT season. Incredible racing.
Getting back to that pit stop with Klaus Ludwig, the fact that there was a windshield wiper on the car serves to indicate that there was a threat of rain early at the top of this show, as I mentioned it. I guess I'm trying to keep myself from looking like a fool here. It never has rained. The sun has been shining brightly. Great day for racing. But that windshield wiper is on a lot of the cars nonetheless.
Yeah, really an outstanding day. The temperatures are just beautiful out here today. We've got mid-70s and a very nice, cool breeze coming off the ocean. It makes it very comfortable to be in a car like this. Usually it's sort of a greenhouse effect. You've got so much glass around you, and because of the high speeds, we run side windows in all these cars. So the temperature in the cockpit area is just incredible. You get temperatures upwards of 150 degrees.
Once again, our leaders, you watch Chip Robinson, the Jaguar. These are the 1 and 2 Ford Probes, cars 7 and 07, making their way through traffic. Updating you on our situation, we saw a service vehicle on the track earlier. We have reports now there was a small brush fire out on the track. Don Bell in one of the Camel Lights cars, splitting the leaders now. Ron Kendrick is on pit road. Here comes the second place car for its pit stop. Let's go down to Ron Kendrick and let him take us through our number 2 car's stop.
Ford Mustang Probe comes to a stop. Lynn St. James is ready to get into the car, but apparently there will not be a driver change. Pete Halsmer will stay behind the wheel. Fuel going into the car, tires being changed. Again, a good cleaning of the windshield. Halsmer apparently comfortable in the car, does not need a driver change at this point. Car is down off the air jacks and away. Little quick stop again just to clean off some of the windshield. Car goes away in just over 35 seconds.
Interesting note there, Bill. We didn't see the windshield wiper on that stop.
Well, I don't know if that was a combination of maybe Pete's lack of familiarity with the car or his pit crew's procedure, but he sat there with that cleaning fluid being on the windshield, and it was just incredible. I thought, my Lord, is he going to go back on the track with all this there? Virtually an opaque windshield.
I'm surprised we didn't have a pit marshal holding them up until they got that windshield clear. At these speeds, you've got to be able to see where you're going. Okay, we've had pit stops from virtually all of our leaders, updating the standings right now. Close moment there for Klaus Ludwig once again with the number 13, Frank Ravino Camel Lights car. Those two have been seeing a lot of each other today.
Yeah, I'm sure Klaus would rather put a little distance between he and the car he's passing, and that was very close at that point. But he's continuing to drive a very forceful race, but not taking anything that I would judge to be an extremely dangerous move. He's just driving very, very well, using what he can use.
So we see Klaus Ludwig now in first, the team car, the 07 car of Pete Halsmer in second. Running third right now, Chip Robinson of the number 44 Jaguar. John Paul in the Buick is in fifth place. And we'll be back at the Monterey Triple Crown Grand Prix right after this. Triple Crown Grand Prix, it is all Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Probe number 7. And you see him there flying around this 1.9-mile Laguna Seca race course. A huge lead over our second place car, now officially being shown as the number 44 Jaguar. Chip Robinson now at the controls. And once again, this is a great day. 14-second lead over the Jaguar, but even that for this Jaguar team that has had to struggle with a normally aspirated engine against their big turbo brothers, this has really got to be a real moral victory for Group 44, Bill.
Well, it's really a good day for both teams. Both the Ford and the Jaguar teams suffered just horrendous accidents at Riverside, California, totally destroying two of their cars, and here they are back running first and second. In that end, maybe I can just make a mention of something that one of our very, very finest competitors in IMSA, John Kalajian, was seriously injured in an extremely bad crash at Riverside. And for those viewers out there, there's a trust fund set up, the John Kalajian Trust, at the First Citizens Bank in Charleston, South Carolina. As I mentioned, they're very, very bad injuries. If anybody out there can help, I'm sure that John and all of us would really appreciate whatever you can send. That's John Kalajian Trust at First Citizens Bank in Charleston, South Carolina.
There is the Dyson car. Bryce Cobb still at the wheel as most of the drivers making solo efforts. A notable exception being the Jaguar. Dyson slipping by our Camel Lights leader, the Pontiac Fiero of Bob Earl.
It sure looks good for their car. They had such an encouraging start down in Road Atlanta where the car ran very, very quickly, and again at Riverside. But they've gone through the teething problems that new cars always go through. But today this car just appears to be running flawlessly. It's really a beautiful performance, and again, it's such a good-looking little car. Very, very pretty.
Only its third race of the season, so a victory in the third race would probably belie all the things we've been saying about how tough it is to get a car up to speed on the Camel GT circuit. Bob Earl doing a fine job. A car he knows quite well, being a Pontiac driver in the GTU division as well.
Yeah, these cars don't have quite the problems the GTP cars have in that they're really having to put up with half the horsepower that the full prototypes have, so they don't have nearly the transmission or the drivetrain problems to contend with, and they're more concerned with the fine-tuning of their chassis.
That's Don Bell in the second place Camel Lights car, being passed by the 07 Probe, now running in third place. Don Bell, a winner at the Miami Camel GT stop this year, and having another fine ride today here at Laguna Seca.
That's been an excellent little car for them. They run a Buick engine in that, similar to what is in the Conti cars, only it's unturbocharged. It's just running a straight fuel injection system. And it looks like it's a very nicely balanced car. Everything works very well on it. The car has got good horsepower and good torque out of the air. It's a Challenger. Very interesting to note. We've got a Pontiac motor running first. We've got a Buick engine next. We've got Mazda engines that run so strong in the GTP light class. In fact, Mazda usually wins just through the durability. It's a wonderfully competitive class.
That red car you see coming down in the background, that's the number 63 Mazda Argo racer. That's being driven by Jim Downing, who coined the expression Camel Lights for this class. Jim, a former GTU champion in Camel GT racing, also the first champion in the Camel Lights division, having taken that title in 1985. He's running in third position right now.
Well, an outstanding driver. Jim is also a very, very good team manager. He runs an extremely good effort.
Don Bell passing through, turn through, making his way up to 3. Good battle for second place in the Camel Lights class.
What a scenic racetrack this is. Just, you look at the background, it's almost like driving through the highway someplace.
Good shot there of Jim Downing from Atlanta, Georgia. He has been in IMSA racing virtually since the beginning, in the mid-70s.
Longtime competitor, and Jim has always been competitive. Never one to run at the back of the pack or be out of contention. He's always very fast and a very intelligent driver. Rarely see Jim ever make a mistake.
Now, Jim tells me that Mazda is coming out with a 3-rotor engine as opposed to the 2-rotor Wankel rotary engine that's running in these Mazdas. That 3-rotor engine will power a prototype, a GTP car that will run against the Ford Probes like this one. Klaus Ludwig leading the race right now. So Mazda expanding its horizons and expecting to get into full-scale prototype racing before too long.
Oh, I'm sure he's anxious to take charge of that program, and that should put them right up back and competitive with the Buick and Pontiac engine cars on not just an overall race winning capability, one through durability, but absolute flat-out speed as well.
Now, should Klaus Ludwig hold this position and win the race, he will become the 6th different winner in as many races in 1986. The record for Camel GT Racing is 7. But Klaus Ludwig could become the 6th different racing winner on the IMSA circuit this year. As we look out over the harbor in Monterey Bay, we'll be back to Laguna Seca for more Camel GT Racing after these words. Leader Klaus Ludwig, who has led virtually from the green flag here in the Monterey Grand Prix IMSA Camel GT race. Bob Barsha and Bill Adam with you. And Bill, that Ford Probe just shows no signs whatever of problems.
Well, the car has performed flawlessly, but so has Klaus, and he's extended his lead over this car, the number 44 Jaguar, now driven by Chip Robinson. Chip is driving probably as hard as he can at this point, but really can't make any indentation into the lead that Klaus has put up. It's very, very impressive performance.
And here is now our third place car. John Paul Jr. has taken over third in the number 45 Buick Hawk. Good drive for John as well.
Well, I'm sure John's running really hard here. He came close to winning this race last year, and it was just a very slight slip that took victory away from him. Here's the Price Cobb car that John's closing up on, getting very close right here, going down the extremely fast 150, 160 mile an hour turns 1 and 2 range. This is really such a high-speed section of track. It's very deceiving for the viewers to sit and watch. You just don't realize just the thoughts that go through your mind. You keep thinking, oh my God, am I going to make it through at this speed? But of course, these ground effect cars do make it.
If you'd like to try to visualize in your own mind what it's like for these drivers in these incredibly powerful cars, they run about 1,800 to 1,900 pounds, and at 900 horsepower, just figure roughly they've got 5 times the horsepower of your street car and only half the weight.
Oh,
close moment there for Price Cobb.
Gee, I thought John was going to make a little stab to go up the inside there, but I think he wisely dropped back. That would actually be a fairly risky point for a pass, and I think he'll be able to find a place without quite so much risk.
Price Cobb now a lap down. John Paul Jr. trying to put another lap on him now.
I think what has happened, you recall earlier in the race, he wasn't able to do that in the identical situation. After his pit stop, I think his crew has turned up that external boost knob to give him more horsepower. Now he can out-accelerate the Price Cobb Porsche.
Chip Robinson putting a lap on the Logan Blackburn Camel Lights car. But here is your leader showing that gash put in the side on the second lap of the race, very near to where the radiators are housed to keep that engine cool in the back. But obviously no problem caused for the Ford Probe team today. And 3-time Le Mans winner Klaus Ludwig is making the most of it.
Something that I had wondered about as well, Bob, is right at that point the exhausts exit from the car. And of course, further up the exhaust pipe is the exhaust-driven turbocharger. Something that could easily have happened is with a severe blow on the end of the pipe, it may have broken a housing or given some sort of a mechanical problem to that turbo, but obviously not. The car continues to run and sound perfectly. No indication of a problem. Hopefully this will continue for us.
Ludwig making his way by the number 13 Mazda Argo of Frank Rubino, the car that had spun on the second lap of this 98-lap race. And then in a perhaps questionable move, Frank Rubino pulled forward just as Klaus was trying to make his way by and put that gash on the port side of that Ford Probe.
Yeah, I'm really quite surprised that Frank would do that. And here's Pete Halsmer. He has run extremely well today, too. Pete made a very good transition from the Porsche team, the BF Goodrich Jim Busby team, over to Ford and has adapted to the Probe very quickly. Now, this car, it's a much more difficult car to drive, even though we continue to talk about its outstanding handling. But because it's a very small motor, you're really working with a rev band of less than 2,000 RPM. That's keeping the engine running between 7,200 revs and 9,000. So you have to almost row the car through it. It's gearbox, and use 5 gears or 6 gears, whatever is available to you, to keep those revs in that very critical band so your horsepower is at its maximum. It's much harder than the Jaguar, for example, where you can use the wide torque band.
A lot of engineering talk there, Bill. Halsmer is one guy who would understand it, though. He is a graduate engineer.
Well, I didn't understand what I just said, but I sure sounded impressive for a minute.
Okay. Pete Halsmer out of Anaheim, California, currently holding down 4th place and that means he has dropped back from second. I wonder if perhaps this backup car is not maybe giving Pete Halsmer a little problem or two. As we said earlier in the broadcast, the Riverside race, the number 2 Ford Probe was taken out in a dramatic accident. Nobody hurt, fortunately, but the car totally devastated. This is a backup car that has been made race ready in the space of about a week. Very difficult for any team. We'll be back to Laguna Seca Raceway in scenic Monterey, California for more IMSA Camel GT racing on ESPN after these words. Watching the second place car of Chip Robinson in the Group 44 Jaguar. And Bill Adam, Klaus Ludwig seems to have first place pretty much in control. Chip Robinson, though, has to be thinking about John Paul Jr. in that Buick behind him.
Well, Chip's continuing to drive at a very hard pace, but you see, Chip is a very neat driver, too, and I really don't anticipate any problems happening as far as his driving ability is concerned. He came up from the Formula car ranks and really shows a very fine style. Oh, John has just spun.
Paul Jr. in second place lost a wheel off that Buick March and spun hard into the turn side Armco.
Oh, what an incredible shot. He really hit that barrier hard. I think something broke on the wheel. You just saw it rolling by there, and the whole center of the wheel was gone. Then it appeared to get underneath the car and actually almost launched the car.
More importantly, John Paul Jr.'s hand you saw there opening the door. I guess from this point that John Paul Jr. is all right.
Oh, I'm sure John is fine at this point, but the car certainly looks very, very bad.
Saw the course worker there signaling for help, but he's not signaling that anybody is injured, so no, apparently John Paul Jr. is all right, but that car is severely damaged.
Yeah, I'm sure John is just sitting in the car right now, just sort of collecting himself a little bit, making sure that he isn't injured before he tries to get out. You don't want to aggravate any sort of a potential injury by getting out too quickly. And yeah, John is shaken, obviously. Unbelievable turn of events.
Looking back at his total car, Paul Jr. taking a look around, moving up from third place onto the Jaguar of Chip Robinson. But John Paul Jr., as you see, is obviously out of this race. That was a heck of a lick he took.
Oh, very, very frightening, too. With that wheel actually getting under the car, it could have launched the car up and even over the guardrail.
Here's a replay now. Paul Jr. coming down to the right of your screen. Watch as the car suddenly darts to the right.
Turning into the corner, and you can see there, the car goes up as it's launched itself right off the ground.
And very nearly into a photographer standing by the track wall.
Well, he either got an incredible photograph or he'll never forget it.
Off comes the nose of the car, off comes the windshield. But it looks as though John Paul Jr. is all right. There you see him looking back over the Armco barrier at the wreck of his Buick Hawk Racer.
Oh, I'm glad to see that John is none the worse for that one. That was a very hard impact into there. He could easily have been hurt. And he's smiling a little bit, yeah. Maybe he's smiling considering the fact that the car might finally be wrecked past the point of repairing it. This has always been a bad luck car, and Phil Conti just continues to show faith to a remarkable degree. He keeps getting these cars built and rebuilt.
Okay, I was about to say it'll be a long walk back to the pits for John Paul Jr., but he takes the short route, and Ron Kendrick is with him.
Glad you're walking. Take care.
Thanks. That looked like a pretty bad hit. What happened?
The whole center broke out of the wheel. Way it goes. Hub's still mounted to it, and the inside of the BBS wheel is, but the whole rest of the wheel departed from the car.
Bad luck at Riverside, bad luck here. What are you going to do to turn it around?
We'll win Charlotte.
A note of optimism there from John Paul Jr. as you're watching Klaus Ludwig still on the lead and once again moving in on Al Holbert, trying to put that Porsche of the series point leader a lap down. And Bill, Al Holbert's not exactly making way here for the leader.
No, I really a little bit surprised at Al at this point. He's obviously a long way out of contention and really can't hope for even a top 3 finish. And I don't know why he wouldn't just let Klaus by at this point.
The leader's working their 77th lap by our calculations. And as you say, with roughly 12 laps to go in the race, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for Al Holbert to get back in it. So won't he just let our leader go by normally?
Well, normally you would. It's a situation that sometimes with a team car, you may want to block the car and hope your teammate can catch up. You are getting awfully close here. That's really sort of strange driving on Al's part. You can see that Klaus is trying very hard to get by. He's using up all the track and really driving quickly right now.
Klaus Ludwig putting a wheel off, now trying to get Al under braking, and no. Once again, Al Holbert slams the door on Klaus Ludwig.
Yeah, this is more like the opening lap of the race rather than thinking that we're near the end.
Oh, and there is a parting shot from Klaus Ludwig. Yeah. He managed to get by and gave him just the length of the bumper before getting back in on Al Holbert. Sort of a thanks for no thanks, Al.
Yeah, that's just his way of saying, pardon me, but you happen to be holding me up, Mr. Holbert.
We're watching the Jaguar now. Chip Robinson in the car. Ron is standing by with Hurley Haywood.
Hurley, Chip doesn't seem to be able to make up any time on the Ford Probe. Is there a problem with the car, or is it just not able to make up the time?
Well, I don't think there's a problem with the car. It's real slippery out there, and I blistered some of my tires, so we don't want that to happen. I think he's just kind of taking it easy, and I'm not going to say we're going to be satisfied with second, but second is better than third. And something happens to the probe, we'll be in a good shot. So we don't want to jeopardize everything and race a crazy race just to try to catch the Ford. If he could do it comfortably, I think that he would do it.
Words of wisdom from a man who's started more races than anyone else in IMSA history. You see the leaders pit crew looking very relaxed. We'll be back to Laguna Seca right after these words. The 07 Ford Probe, still driven at this point by Pete Halsmer. Just moments ago, you saw the hard crash that took out the Buick-powered car of John Paul Jr. That moves this Ford Probe up into third place, and quite a day for Ford here at Laguna Seca, Bill.
Well, they've got to be very excited. I think Riverside was really just a devastating race for them, and particularly losing one of their top-flight cars. And now they've got their cars running first and third place. It's just, that's such an important thing for the crews.
Now here you're watching the battle for second. This is the Camel Light division once again, as Don Bell and the Buick Argo passing the Buick Taiga car of Charles Morgan and Logan Blackburn.
Yeah, these two have been having a good little battle, and it's really interesting, too, that the American motors are coming on so strong with the Pontiac engine leading the race right now. Here we've got two real good, strong-running Buick engine cars, and it's nice to see them come up and challenge the Mazdas. The Mazdas have been dominant for so long, and admirably so. They do a remarkable job. They're really incredible little motors. But it's nice to see this battle here. We're getting a lot more makes into the series, and I've even heard words of Oldsmobile coming in soon.
And that, of course, was the goal of this Camel Lights division, to get different chassis, different engine manufacturers involved, and they've arrived at that. More than half a dozen different engines and 7 or 8 different types of chassis involved. There's 3 of them right there. An Argo, a Taiga, and an Alba.
You can see there Jim Downing at the back of the picture there in his Mazda engine car, which, of course, is series champion last year.
Jim Downing moving in on the Charles Morgan Logan Blackburn car number 6. They may have a problem with that Buick-powered Taiga car. And Jim Downing looks like he's going to be able to take him here on the start-finish straightaway.
Jim really came through that corner very strong. He got on the power early and had a good run coming out of the corner, just enough to give him the momentum to go by this car. And as you say, possibly there's even a problem with the car, or maybe they're just slowing down a little bit because it is getting near the end of the race, and they don't want to throw away a good finishing position.
Jim Downing now running third in Camel Lights. But here is your overall leader, Klaus Ludwig in the Ford Mustang Probe. A beautiful day for that car.
Oh, what a day Klaus has had. Just a picture-perfect drive. This is the type of thing when you go through driver's school to first get your competition license, they tell you this is what you want. Well, Klaus has really been an instructor to the entire field today.
In the background, you see Bryce Cobb in the Porsche 962 running 2 laps down to the leader now. Klaus Ludwig at this point, Bill, simply has to have this car on autopilot. He is a very aggressive driver, but at this point, just get the car finished.
Well, he has so much experience behind him, and he started with such a hard, fast pace that he now is into a rhythm that I don't think anyone can match him at. He's very comfortable at the pace he's running at, even though it's a very fast pace, and you could see him there sliding right to the edge of the pavement. He's still using up all of the track and running this very fast pace, but since he's done it for an hour and a half now, he's very comfortable at it. And this is just simply being repetitious, doing the same things lap after lap, and trying to drive as intelligently as possible, not endanger the car, not abusing machinery.
Now here's the battle for second place. Don Bell moves on to pit road. That will put Jim Downing in the 63 car, the red car up there at the top of your picture, into second place in the Camel Lights division.
Well, we just spoke to that earlier. We talked about Al Holbert never, ever giving up. He's always in a position to challenge, and certainly Jim is just proving this point admirably right now, that he has come back into a position, and if the Fiero suffers the slightest problem, he's there once again to win.
Fast fuel stop. No tires for Don Bell. Apparently just enough to get a splash of fuel that Don Bell apparently feels he needs to get to the end of this 98-lap race.
A think some of the GTP light cars are able to go through the entire race without making a fuel stop. The Buicks possibly are a little thirstier because they do make more horsepower than the Mazda engine cars, but to feed the horses, you have to pay for it. But here's the leader. Well, what a day they've had. Like, Bob Earl has driven beautifully, and the car has performed up to what I think we all expected after first viewing this car at Atlanta, and that's a very fast performance.
Once again, only the third race for this car, so a victory at this point, which seems at least possible, if not definite, would be fantastic. Third race for the Pontiac Fiero GTP Camel Lights car.
Really amazing. They've taken the basic car that won the World Endurance Championship under 2-liter class last year, brought it to North America, made some modifications, and they have a beautiful car at this point. They have to be very pleased with it, even so early in its development.
This being only the 6th race of 19 on the 1986 Camel GT schedule could give this car a shot at a championship. What a thing that would be for a car in its first time out of the box, in its first, not even a full season of racing, to win a championship. But that's for later moments. Right now, this is the man everyone's eyes are on at Laguna Seca, Klaus Ludwig. Once again, under the start-finish line in the Ford Mustang Probe.
You know, again, this season is just shaping up to be absolutely remarkable. We've had the 5 different winners, and I see no reason to believe that Klaus won't go on today to make it the 6th winner in 6 races. Everyone talks about Bill France and NASCAR having such a remarkable racing series where all the cars are competitive. Well, in the Camel GT series with IMSA this year, we have got that exactly. All the cars are very competitive, and you never know who's going to win.
As we mentioned, the record is 7 different winners in a season. If Klaus Ludwig should hold up, there will be 6 different winners in 1986 for IMSA. We'll be right back. In the final laps of this 98-lap Strohs 300, part of the Monterey Triple Crown Grand Prix for IMSA Camel GT cars on ESPN. And at this point, Bill Adam, it looks like Klaus Ludwig appears to have this race sewn up.
Well, I think so, but I really hate to talk about it prior to that final lap when you actually get underneath the checkered flag. It looks very good right now, and there's no indications of problems, as are there any indications of problems for this number 44 Jaguar. This car, too, has run absolutely perfectly. No problems at all. Both drivers have done outstanding jobs today.
There you get a good idea of the differential between the first and second place cars as Chip Robinson has a handful with traffic here.
Yeah, a little bit of frustration right there. Sometimes you get embroiled in someone else's battle, and you can't get past. These cars are working with hundreds of horsepower less than what the Jaguar puts out, and of course can't accelerate as quickly. So Chip just had to bide his time a little bit, but it doesn't endanger him as far as losing his position. So really nothing else.
About 25 seconds down to the leader. Robinson has at least that over the third place car. That's the 07 Ford Probe. And whoa, speaking of which,
no.
What is wrong? Pete Halsmer, this was your third place car. With 4 laps to go, this could be a problem for the Ford team.
Now, there's who are just talking about that. Hopefully, this is not something chronic to the Ford cars and won't happen to Klaus's car. I don't know what this could be because Pete's car has sounded and has run perfectly all day long. I have no idea what this could be.
Once again, this car, a backup car, a replacement after the car destroyed at Riverside. There is your leader, Klaus Ludwig, who at this point on radio might know that his teammate Pete Halsmer has a problem, at which point Klaus would have to wonder, oh my, could it happen to me? The cars are identical.
I can't believe this. Pete has driven so well today and has done such a good job. A first and third finish would have been outstanding, and I'm sure that the Ford crew right now are just praying for that first finish.
There's the 07 car of Halsmer making its way to pit lane.
It doesn't look like he's going to get back out either. There's no action on the car, so I think Pete's done for the day.
Well, he was in a solid third place. Now we're going to have to see how far he will fall back. Not that many cars remaining in the competition at this point.
Really frustrating.
Now here comes Bryce Cobb in the Dyson Racing number 16 Porsche 962. He will assume third place. With just a couple of laps remaining.
Well, this is a good comeback for the Rob Dyson team, having won Riverside, and now they come to Laguna for a sprint race, and it appears that they will finish third. So they're going to be very pleased with this finish here.
And a great story behind that car. It was new out of the box at Riverside just a week ago, had not turned the wheel until qualifying for the Riverside race, which was a 6-hour endurance challenge. Bryce Cobb and team owner Rob Dyson took that car to victory lane. But here is your leader, hoping for his shot at victory lane, Klaus Ludwig. It's just a lap or two remaining with this 1.9-mile Laguna Seca circuit. Final lap, we're now told. Klaus Ludwig has 1 lap to go, and Bill, he's got to be hearing every little noise, every little squeak in that Ford Probe.
Well, I'm sure Klaus does, but he's continuing to drive very hard. I'm absolutely amazed with the pace that he has kept up and continues to keep up on his final laps. You can see the car is sliding, look, right to the edge of the pavement there. Now, he's not driving out there deliberately. He's trying to hold the car in, but use it and have this long slide as he's under hard acceleration. There was the first sign of him taking it easy, was just maybe right there when he got on the brakes a little early. A nice move there by one of the slower competitors. Just be very charitable and get out of his way as he's coming through. But Klaus is still, he's running hard. What a tremendous victory for him. He really deserves this.
One more turn, and Klaus Ludwig and the Ford Probe will become the 6th different winner in the 1986 Camel GT season. Out of turn 9, a wave from the course marshals, and there's the checkered flag for Klaus Ludwig and the Ford Probe.
A happy wave at his crew by Klaus. You get to see him reach out with his left hand there to shake his hand at them. We've got it, guys. Today is our day.
Happy pit crew. 1 year to the day from the introduction of that car. That's Tom Gloy, alternate driver in the red jacket. Here's Bob Earl. And another great story, will win the Camel Lights division and only the 3rd race for the Pontiac Fiero Camel Lights car. Chip Robinson brings the Jaguar home 2nd. Bryce Cobb will have a Porsche 962 in 3rd position. Here is Al Holbert, already on pit road. He knows he's got 4th place nailed down despite that disheartening crash at the start of the race.
Well, that's a shame that Al had a problem there, but it shows us what persistence will do. He is still going to pick up 4th place points, which can be very, very important in the season championship.
And as Klaus Ludwig bushwhacks his way back to victory lane, having missed the turnoff, we'll be back to talk with the winner right after these messages. And so it's been something of a day for the have-nots here at Laguna Seca as Klaus Ludwig gives the Ford Probe its first victory in wire-to-wire fashion on the anniversary of its debut here at Laguna Seca. Not to be outdone, Bob Earl wins the Camel Lights division in the Pontiac Fiero, running just its 3rd race ever. Overall results for the event show the race was run in 1 hour, 43 minutes, 47 seconds and change at an average speed of just over 107 miles an hour for our winner, Klaus Ludwig. Fastest lap of the day was turned by Al Holbert on his way to a 4th place finish. Ron Kendrick is standing by in victory lane with the happy Ford crew and their winner, Klaus Ludwig. Let's go to Ron now.
Klaus, it was a weekend where there just was nothing that went wrong with your car. Isn't that correct?
That's absolutely correct, and I really deserved it, I tell you. I'm really very close to tears because it took a long time.
What does this now mean for the team? You've had some bad luck throughout the course of the year. Now you pull off a big win here at Laguna Seca.
We keep on working, I tell you, and we're going to win again, that's for sure. We're going to really keep on working, and I must say thank you to Ford, 7-Eleven, everybody. Great job, and especially our mechanics and Zackspeed USA. Thank you very much all together.
It's got to make you feel really good because the other Mustang Probe finished in 3rd place.
That's very, very pleasing. And what else can I say? The Goodyear tires today, super. I didn't have any problem, and so I'm happy, very, very happy.
There were a couple of minor incidents on course, but you weren't near any of them, were there?
No, I wasn't near anybody. Holbert was playing a crazy game. I don't know why. I must talk to him.
What do you mean? What was he doing?
He was always holding me up for, let's say, 10 laps, and then he let me by or whatever. I really had to fight him. I don't know why. You know, he was far behind, and that was a little bit strange. I don't know.
Well, congratulations on a big win.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
For Bill Adam and Ron Kendrick, this is Bob Varsha saying we hope you'll join us again when we come to you live from Lime Rock in the Lime Rock Camel GT. But for now, so long from Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California.